physical and the mental taxation, the physical and the mental exercise, if you will, should be proportionate. So the youth should be 50-50, indoors and outdoors, and we'll get into that more. The children should not long be confined indoors, and the little children are not yet ready for the schoolroom. So speaking of exercise, we say, okay, we got to get the kids outside. We got to get the youth outside, 50%, or we want to keep the little children, the children active and not have them long confined indoors. So let's start an intramural program. Let's get them their exercise. Yes, is this a good way to do it? Well, the study Cognitive Genesis found, once again, that students who play competitive sports have lower academic achievements than those who do positive activities like working at home, working at the school, manual labor at the school, music, non-competitive exercise, non-sports exercise. So if you're doing positive activities versus if you're playing competitive sports, you actually produce better academic results. Competitive sports has been shown in the research to not benefit the academic results. But more than that, more than the academic, the tendency of most athletic sports is a subject of anxious thought to those who have at heart the well-being of the youth. The games that occupy so much of his time are diverting the mind from study. They are not helping to prepare the youth for practical, earnest work in life. Their influence does not tend toward refinement, generosity, or real manliness. Some of the most popular amusements, such as football, this would be American football, and boxing, have become schools of brutality. They are developing the same characteristics as did the games of ancient Rome. The love of domination, the pride in mere brute force, the reckless disregard of life are exerting upon the youth a power to demoralize that is appalling. We'll continue with the quote in a second, but I've heard the objection, oh, that was just football back then. You know, back 100 years ago, they didn't have as many pads that they'd wear and helmets, and they wouldn't have as many rules in the game. And so, you know, football was different back then, so we can get immersed in American football today and have our consciences clear. Yes, it is true that football was different back then than today. It was about 1/100th as absorbing. It was about 1/100th as popular as it is today. And so, you know, that's one difference. But then people, you know, they say they don't have as many rules and so on. But what was the objection we just read? It wasn't that there weren't enough rules and pads in the game. That was the problem. The problem with football and boxing was that it is about brute force and domination. So adding more rules and adding more pads doesn't make it less about domination and brute force. Now you might say, well, we got flag football, we got basketball, we've got some other options. Let's read on. Other athletic games, though not so brutalizing, are scarcely less objectionable because of the excess to which they are carried. They stimulate the love of pleasure and excitement, thus fostering a distaste for useful labor, a disposition to shun practical duties and responsibilities. They tend to destroy a relish for life's sober realities and its tranquil enjoyments. This kind of sounds like why we objected to fiction in the last session. Thus, the door is opened to dissipation and lawlessness with their terrible results. Reading on, Satan is delighted when he sees human beings using their physical and mental powers in that which does not educate, which is not useful, which does not help them to be a blessing to those who need their help. While the youth are becoming experts in games that are of no real value to themselves or to others, Satan is playing the game of life for their souls. Satan and his angels are working upon the minds of teachers and students to induce them to engage in exercises and amusements which become intensely absorbing and which are of a character to strengthen the lower passions. Amusements are doing more to counteract the working of the Holy Spirit than anything else, and the Lord is grieved. A view of things was presented before me in which the students were playing games of tennis and cricket. Then I was given instruction regarding the character of these amusements. They were presented to me as a species of idolatry, like the idols of the nations. There were more than visible spectators on the ground. Satan and his angels were there, making impression upon human minds. I cannot find an instance in the life of Christ where he devoted time to play and amusement. I have not been able to find one instance where he taught the disciples to engage in amusement in order to gain physical exercise. Pretty strong and straightforward counsel there. I don't need to repeat it all, right? And by the way, with regard to play, Jesus didn't teach his disciples to play. Jesus' disciples were teenagers. They were youth. And so don't apply that to, your 4-year-old and be like, we can't play anymore. Let's just have stern, grim, outlooks on life and not have fun. No. Child guidance says that little children find diversion and development in play. So let's not take that older kid counsel and apply it to the younger. But for most of the principles of education, have you noticed that it applies across the board, that it's to be practical, that we're teaching them the Bible? Everything we've talked about, most of it, 95% of it, applies to all ages. But just be careful with some of those as well. But when you're playing with your little children, it's not a competitive element, right? It's not an, I'm going to beat you. Who invented that principle of the I'm better than you, I'm going to be above you, I will win at your expense, you will lose, and I will gain the victory over you. I'm going to be better than you. I will ascend the throne of God above the stars of heaven. I will sit on the Mount of Assembly, Isaiah 14. This is a satanic principle. In fact, Cognitive Genesis found that teachers who foster a cooperative environment in their classroom, cooperative as opposed to competitive, produces better academic achievement. And that's just academic. We're talking about spiritual principles and the great controversy here. Hugely important. I'm not done talking about sports. The world is full of excitement. Men act as though they have gone mad over low, cheap, unsatisfying things. How excited I have seen them over the result of a cricket match. I've seen the streets of Sydney densely crowded for blocks. On inquiring what was the occasion of the excitement, was told that some expert player of cricket had won the game. I felt disgusted. Why are not the chosen of God more enthusiastic? Good question. How much time is spent by intelligent human beings in horse racing, cricket matches, and ball playing? But will indulgence in these sports give men a desire to know truth and righteousness? Will it keep God in their thoughts? Will it lead them to inquire, how is it with my soul? All the powers of Satan are set in operation to hold the attention to frivolous amusements, and he is gaining his object. He is interposing his devisings between God and the soul. He will manufacture diversions to keep men from thinking about God. The world, filled with sport and pleasure loving, is always thirsting for some new interest. But how little time and thought are given to the Creator of the heavens and the earth. Now, that pretty much sums it up. I don't need to say it. I can't say it any better than that. And that's not me. That's not somebody's opinion. That is from the Lord, okay?